Happy New Year, everyone. I'm Marlene Moore, and I am the creator of the Back to Basics piano method. I actually prefer the word program because this is a curriculum of books 1 to 10 in the Back to Basics program. And also, there are 12 more books. So it's a little more than just a basic beginner method. In fact, a whole lot more because it goes right through to advanced work. Um, I haven't done a video for a while, and the reason for that is I sort of wanted everything to digest in your heads. I hope by now that you have seen videos 1 to 20. Videos 18, 19, and 20 are actually reviews up close of books 1, 2, and 3 because I can't talk and have the camera also on the books. So you really need to have the books. We're going to be going now from books 5 to 10 in the next 11 videos. Books 5 and 6 to 10, plus the other books that are the companion books to Back to Basics we'll talk about those another time. Back to Basics, if you don't know yet, if you haven't seen this before, is based on the concepts of love, achievement, freedom, and fun. That spells laugh. If you look at the first letters of each word, it spells laugh. And it means that it's a happy place. Back to Basics, hopefully, is love, achievement, freedom, and fun for you, for your students, and for the parents of your students. So many times we learn, I've learned, and many of you have learned by watching Facebook pedagogy groups especially, that teachers really don't want to have their parents in with the lessons. We encourage that because the student will only do as well as having the parent involved. You need to have the parent involved. And we'll talk more about that on another lesson day. The videos that you're watching are free. My books are not free. It took me 30 years or more to write the books, so they have to be paid for. So you can't just go along and do this teaching method by using other books. You need to use the books that I've written because that's what these videos are all about. It's about the books and the concept behind the books and all the rest of it. My books 1 to 10 and the complementary books, the companion books that go with books 1 to 10, are available at J.W. Pepper. And I will also put that on the outside of the video so you can see that. The Back to Basics concept is contained in this book. This is like a master copy of what the Back to Basics program is all about. It took me a long time to write this book. It deals mainly with stage fright and performance. However, it also talks about the genesis of the Back to Basics piano program, how it evolved, why it evolved, and why it's very important. If you're really, really interested to know how to teach more effectively, then get this book. It's called Performing Without Fear, but it is also all of the history of the Back to Basics piano program, and it talks about how I kind of fell into this through teaching traditional piano and teaching Suzuki piano, and then finding the middle ground between those two types of teaching. And it took many, 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 many years for this to evolve. And this is all talked about in this book. So I think this is a kind of handbook for you. I'm not just trying to sell you a book. It will help you to understand this whole program better and to see if that program is for you and for your students. So over 600 piano teachers now can swear by this program. Their students are doing so well, and I'm so pleased to hear that. And most of them have this book, and they keep saying how it is so simple. It's so simple. Why didn't they think of it? Well, I think a lot of us have thought of all of this, but we just haven't been able to put it into words. And thankfully, this is what I was able to do. So please get this book along with your books 6 to 10 and 1 to 5 if you haven't had those already. Okay? That would be great. And I hope too, excuse me, I hope too that you are thinking seriously if you're just looking at this on YouTube and you don't know what it's all about. Please join my Facebook group. It's called Back to Basics Teacher Training Program. And most of the people that that watch these videos are part of this Facebook group. But if you're not, please join. You'll be very welcome. There's only one stipulation. You cannot get into the group unless you answer the 4 questions. 4 questions at the beginning. In the past 6 months, I have had to turn down approximately, I would guess, at 125 teachers who wanted to be part of the Back to Basics program because they didn't answer the questions. And I used to write to each one individually saying you have to answer the questions. But I don't have time for that anymore. So I'll just tell you ahead of time. The only way you can get into the program is to answer the questions. And the reason for that is I want teachers who are serious about learning this program, about purchasing the books, about having open, inquiring minds, and who are very, very interested to find an audiation program that works with their students. Okay? So that's my end of it. Just a quick review before we have another look at Book 5. We've talked about things such as replacement dialogue. You're going to find all of this in videos 1 and 2. Replacement dialogue and sequential learning. What are they? If you don't know, go back to videos 1, 2, and 3. Find out what they mean. That's just a little bit of a hint for you. These things are often on the exam, and you can take an exam if you want. If you would like to have a certificate, you can take an exam. And I'll tell you right now, that's something that will be in some form on the exam. Sequential learning, what is it? Replacement dialogue, what is it? Okay, just a hint. What is primary learning? What is secondary learning? This is to do with memorization. I'll give you a hint. Primary learning is sight reading, note reading. Secondary learning, so sometimes I call it secondary articulation, is memorization. And we do both in the Back to Basics piano program because a good pianist needs to know how to do both, right? We also talked about the historical approach. Here's something that might be on an exam. The way that music evolved in history. The very first thing was rhythm. That was the first thing. Drums and all kinds of sounds came first that were put into rhythm, you know? Mostly drums. In all countries started with rhythm. So that's what we teach first, is rhythm. The second thing that evolved throughout history was melody. And that's what came next in every country of the world, was melody. rhythm first. Melody. And guess what was next? Harmony. Harmony was the last to be invented, and it's not that many centuries ago that harmony was invented, thanks to Bach and the composers that came after Bach. Bach did contrapuntal harmony, right? And Beethoven did Mozart and Beethoven. Let's take Mozart. I'm trying to simplify it. Okay? That can be on the exam. And to do with sight reading, I'm giving you a very brief history. The first thing in the history of mankind was sound, right? It was sound. All kinds of sounds. That's all. So we want students to be very, very familiar with the concept of sound. What is that sound? Where does it live? Next came the symbols, the notation. They were by the monks long ago. They were called neumes, little square things. Maybe you see pictures of neumes. And these became, over the years, little round things that became the symbols for our notation. So when we look at notation, we're not really looking at music. Everybody says, oh yeah, I got the music for that. You don't really. You've just got a map. That's all you've got is the map. The music is here. The symbols are there. And the last thing to be invented for notation was the concept of rhythm. And that's what is introduced here. The third thing is the concept of rhythm to do with our sight reading. And that's how the books are written, to do with that idea. We also talked about dividing pieces so that we've got one phrase and then the student gets to the end of that phrase and we have a stop sign. We've talked about that. I hope you will review all of the other videos so that you can see how I use these stop signs. I had one teacher tell me not too long ago that the stop, think, go idea was the most valuable thing she had learned to do with Back to Basics. And I'm so glad to hear these kinds of things because I never know what you're going to absorb. So it's nice to say something on our group. It's really nice for me to know what did you like, what worked with your students, because then we can do more of that. Okay? I hope by now you've got your little flashcards. I got these on Amazon and they're blank. Just look up playing cards blank and you'll find these. They're very cheap. So you can make your own. You can buy your own. You can buy them if you want, but you're going to need flashcards. I've got all kinds of them that I've made up. Students love these. You can play all kinds of games with them too. I don't want to dwell on this today, but I just wanted to make sure that you guys have this. We talked about steps, and I use that for making the cards. Step 1, step 2, step 3. You can go right up to, I've got step 12, which I've used many times. Put them up as you're teaching a rote piece. It really, really helps. It kind of just jogs the memory. And the written out, it doesn't take long to make these for making the notes for doing reviews. That certainly helps a lot. And, of course, I don't know how anybody would get along without one of these, this note finder. It's just so handy. Back to Basics goes in the beginning from C to G, starting here. Not in this boring middle C confusing place. It goes from C to G up here. And it goes from C to G down here. And it's also very freeing because the student is playing this way, not squished up like trying to fight over the middle C. It works. It really works. Um, Another teacher told me not too long ago that she was so happy that the Back to Basics piano method did not start on middle C. Why did I do that? Why did I decide to start on the C above middle C instead of on middle C? You know, I was taught this, I am glad, I am sad, and it was so squishy. It felt wrong. Mozart didn't learn like that, you know. He learned up here. Nice freedom, freedom. And we teach staccato first. Why? Because it's easier. It's much easier. I keep seeing these videos on Facebook where some little child is struggling with they're giving them a legato piece right off the bat. That's not going to work very well because we need to learn the wrist staccato. The wrist staccato is so important. Even if they can't get the wrist staccato right away, they can at least lift the hand up and try the next one. So simple. Okay. Another reminder, please, 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 I beg of you, don't buy those little cardboard or tin keyboards that are different colors. Please don't put colors or stickers on your piano keys. Please don't introduce that middle C is red or green or orange. This is really, really confusing for children. I've studied a lot on this. As far as I can understand, the only way a color to do with music, notation or keyboard, would help a student would be if they are a special needs student. And in some cases, the special needs student has been helped by using a color. But it is confusing for children and for adult students as well. Okay, I have played all of Book 5 for you. So today I thought I would just go through a few of the pieces and tell you how I teach it, because we didn't really talk about that. I just played them through. And here's a hint. How I teach Book 5 is the same way that we will teach Book 10, except that at that stage, the student is a much more proficient sight reader. So now, at Book 4 and 5, you need to decide, is your student an auditory learner? Or is your student a visual learner? If the student is a visual learner, they're going to be able to sight read much better. We'll nurture that. Don't try to change them into an auditory learner, but focus on giving them a lot of memorization and still teach them by rote sometimes, not all the time, because that's good ear training. That's how they learn good ear training, and they learn how to listen. I am an auditory and kinesthetic learner. That's what I am. I hope you know how you learn. I need to feel the keys. I learn by looking at the keys, feeling the keys. I memorize easily. I have a good auditory sense. That's probably why I'm a composer. Sight reading is not my natural way of learning. So I've had to work harder on sight reading in order to be a well-rounded musician. So at this stage, you need to know, how do you learn? Have you tested yourself? Do you know whether you are an auditory, kinesthetic, or visual learner? Some people think that's outdated. No, it's not outdated. It's still very, very important. You need to know this. Okay, minuet, here we go. I got new glasses, so let's hope I can see better. Okay, I'm not going to play all of it. How do I teach this? Well, I make sure that they've heard it a few times. Teachers never used to play pieces for children, you know. They'd make them struggle through pointing to the notes, naming the notes. That is torture. That was torture for me. But if you play it a few times, let the child play it hands separately, and do your stop, think, goes. Here would be the first one. Stop. Play it again. How many of you play the whole piece, hands together? Then you play the whole piece again, hands together. Any piece. And then you play it again, hands together. And you keep wondering why you're making mistakes? That's why. Don't play the whole piece hands together. It doesn't work. Play one section. Right hand. That's all. Play it again. Play the left hand. Several times. When you can do that without looking at the book, then you know it. And try to put it hands together now. If it's not memorized, try it again. This way you will memorize instantly. I've been criticized for this, you know, that everybody has to sight read everything at all times. No, you don't. You need to have a balance between sight reading and memorization, always, for every piece. I've been criticized because people say that unless a student becomes a good sight reader, they get into trouble. Well, yes, they do. They have to become good sight readers, but you need a balance. And there needs to be pieces that you are sight reading and pieces that you are memorizing. You don't have to memorize every piece. The next one is a good example. This is just a little sight piece. I would take it right hand first. Left hand. These glasses aren't as good as I thought they were. Anyway, let's try together. If they struggle with it, just have them do one line at a time. Okay? I'm going to check my time here. Last time I kind of went over. Just checking the time. We're doing fine. So this is how you teach every piece in this book. I hope you're looking at your books. I hope you're taking notes. Every piece in this book needs to be taught that way. Stop, think, go, memorize. If it's marked sight reading piece, teach it as a sight reading piece. And these pieces here, Finish the Melody, are very, very, very important. I hope you have that book by now called Making Melodies, because it does help children to be able to eventually compose music. Here's the melody. Have the child play it over 10 times if necessary, till it's memorized. And finish it. Finish the piece. Obviously it ends on a C because it's written in C major. So it starts on C, ends on C. have them write it out. It's only for the right hand. Some little students who are auditory learners and kinesthetic learners will want to put a right hand with that, or a left hand with the right hand. Or any left hand that they make up. It's all valid. It's all valid. Okay, I'm not going to go through the rest of the pieces in the book right now. We've been through all of them. I've played all of them for you. So you go through them. Look at them as though you are learning them for the very first time. Ask yourself, how will I teach this? How will I teach this? Don't forget the G major song at the end. The student plays this song. G major. Oh, what happened? We lost our piano here. That's not very good. Okie doke. Huh. That's not happened before. We want concert grand. Okie doke. G major. G major has F sharp. So we're going to learn, the student's going to learn how to play this. And that's all that's given for a piece. Oh, that's interesting. So you see now why you need the book called Making Melodies, so they can do this easily. Most students, and I would say 90% of students, have no problem with that. You might have to help them a little bit. Most students don't have a problem with that at all. But they will have a problem if you're not doing it at the lesson every week, even if you do half a page of the book called Making Melodies. Okay? I will see you on the next video, and we're going to talk about book 6. So, see you then. Happy listening. Let me know how you're doing with your students. Bye for now.